Hello and good evening, folks. You know what we're here to do. That's right. It's time for another day in paradise because it is time for Clout.WAV yet again. And today's episode is going to have a lot of dramas, may even be a tearjerker, not because of any of the things that have happened in recent history, but things that have happened during the late 90s. Because, folks, I don't know if y'all saw the Nickelodeon documentary, but quiet on the set. It's anything but quiet. Things are not going well for Dan Schneider and company, nor should it. But before we get to that, how you doing, Subtle Fraudulence, man? It's been a week. It has been something, so to speak. It's been stressful. It's got me gripping at my cap, wondering, are we really gonna make it to 2025? Because this first half of the year it's been tough.
Yeah, man. All I have to say is I am once again mentally ill.
Oh, okay. I mean, is it chronic or is it self-diagnosis or a confession? Like, what are we doing here?
Nah, man, it's fatal. It's over. Sorry. Well,
no, ladies and gentlemen, this is the last episode you'll be hearing of this podcast because I think my man said he's punching his ticket. Not by choice either. Like, he's what did Thanos say? It's inevitable.
I am inevitable.
Hey man, mental health can cripple you much like Thanos crippled the Avengers. We've seen it. Honestly, mental health it's no boogeyman. Sometimes you'll be like, I'm having a great day today and nothing can bring me down. And then just slight change of wind for some folks. When will it be over? When will the flames of Gehenna envelop my body and take me? I no longer want to be part of this mortal world. Liberate me from this mortal coil. And people long for the cold embrace of death. It's not fun. It's not even funny. But it is kind of sad to see how often it happens, especially when you, like on social media. Somebody posted memes yesterday, dreams the day before, manifesto the very next week. And then they go out and they do some crazy stuff. Y'all were just laughing in a Discord with them, hooting and hollering, playing Helldivers 2. Oh, your team killed me. You got me. And now that man is diving into hell because he's crazy. He lost his fucking rocker. So make sure you check in on your loved ones and your friends because you never know what demons and battles they may be going through. Because you don't want to do what the Subtle Fraudulent shirt is saying when it comes to the afterlife. And you don't want to just come alone with me. And it's like, but how do you come alone? I know it says come along with me, but trust me. Crazy people, it's come alone. They will wild.
Yeah, there are ways. But you know what? We press on. There are good things that happened this week. There are good things, there's, releases of some new shows. Invincible came out with a new episode because the new season started.
How do you feel about that? Because I'm not saying it was a fumbled bag because I don't even think the episode was not bad, but you got to understand, when the first 4 episodes came out last year, y'all were sprinting, full momentum, and then you just said, trip him, break his kneecaps, and all the momentum was just gone. And I'm not gonna lie, I don't know who your social media or your advertising and your marketing team is. Not saying they need to be fired, but they do need something a little bit more than a slap on the wrist because y'all really let us forget the past couple of months that it was coming. Because it was out for a good 12 hours. I ain't hear nothing. It wasn't even on like my radar. I had forgot when it was coming out. And then I just got, hey man, you been watching Invincible? And it's just like, And they told me that the only reason why they remembered is because when they saw the first announcement a few months ago about when they were planned on bringing it back, they set an alarm. So had it not been for them, preemptively setting an alarm, they too would have missed the return of Invincible. So I digress. And besides, it wasn't like it's kind of a shit week to have done that because you're right there in front of the other superhero show that's making its miraculous comeback that no one saw coming until approximately a few months ago itself, X-Men 97. Like it's just weird. You had an entire release schedule that could have been very easy to have. You could have controlled the entire pace of the winter. But you said, hey, come on down, Marvel. Let's share it. And it's like, hey, you didn't have to do that. How nice of you, charitable. But now there's 2 shows. Is there room for both of them? Of course there is, but clearly one is getting more shine than the other right now, is all I'm saying.
It would have been so much better if, even if they had to like push it back, if they released everything as a one big seasonal chunk instead of taking this break, because some people are saying that the break was because they had to like maybe touch up some of the other episodes or like finish some of those episodes or whatever. But even if that was the case, it would have been better if they just held it off until then. Me, I'm spoiled on the story. I know the story of Invincible, so like I know what's to come, and that's what's keeping me excited for it. But like looking at on an episode to episode basis, it's like this is a point where they're building things up, and I don't know if people are going to be okay with the build up that's happening right now.
Because I'm not gonna lie, comment section, this is a building block season. Like, this is not a big payoff season. This is we're getting a lot of the big players in the right position. They're setting up the board for the bigger stuff down the line. So to have a gap in the setting up phase, I mean, it's an interesting strategy.
Listen,
we're gonna have to see if it pays off.
The last episode of the first chunk of 4 was amazing. Episode 4 is fucking amazing. When like Mark, well, actually, even the end of the episode right before it, the end of episode 3 to the end of episode 4 was great. Mark showing up to the planet, the music swelling up, and then his dad being like, "Hello, son." All of that was great. The interactions with his dad, and then being like, "Don't worry, Mark, look, I know you're mad and all that shit. We don't got time for that. We got to train so that we can fight the Viltrum." Oh my God, they're here. Mark, take them to the cave and we'll fight some Viltrumites. And then Mark getting his ass beat. "Son, they're trying to kill you." He's like, "Dad, I'm doing my best." He's like, "Son, stop holding back." Like, all of that was great. And then it just goes, "Oh, well, Mark is very tired and he's coming home from space with this baby." And then he's like, "Hey, Mom, so I gotta explain some things to you." And then Cecil being like, "Hey, we could take that baby off her hands." It's like, "Sir, you're the government. Please back up, please."
Look, I've heard the government giving out government funds for babies. I didn't know that the baby could be used for government funds.
Exactly. So then, them being like, "Yeah, Mark, you gotta go back out to space." And listen, what is it? I don't remember Amber being like a big thing in the comics. I believe she was made up for the show, if I remember correctly. I know what the big romance arc is in the show, and the show started off building that up and then put in Amber, and they're building it up again, but they're putting Amber back in the middle of it. And it's like, I am already at a point where I'm like, let's just let that be done. And they just keep trying to will they, won't they? Will they, won't they? Maybe he's going to have his human girlfriend, whatever. And I'm like, no, it doesn't make sense. And in the first season, when she was being dumb.
Here's the thing. Amber was more of a, what's the best way I want to put it? She was more, I wouldn't necessarily say a super background character, but she was definitely more of a, I guess in the comics, the best way to put it is they're not necessarily trying to make it a big drama thing with her. She's just a happy relationship counterpart for Mark. It's not necessarily this teen drama of, oh no, and well, the identity, she's an asshole, she's upset that he canceled again. It's less of that.
Right.
And it was really weird because they race swapped her, which, I mean, I guess that's cool, but did you have to race swap her and then make her 20 times more toxic? What the fuck are you trying to tell me, bro?
They made her a more prominent character. And then, in this season, she's less of a prominent character. And it just, I don't know. It's one of those things where it's they put all the little seedlings there to make it be well, they can't just keep going on like this. And the man literally left for 3 months? He was like, "Yeah, I'm going off to space for this thing." And then he got traumatized out in space and came back 3 months later. So I'm now Earth's protector? Yeah, there's a lot going on over here.
Yeah, there's a lot of things outside, and Some of them are going to be coming.
Right. And like they make her to be like now she's the understanding girlfriend. I'm like, no, I mean, you've been through a lot. I understand that, you've got so much going on. So like go and do what you need to do and come back or whatever. But it was like it felt better when she was less reasonable, and that's it. Like the times when she was being like, well, you're lying and we don't spend time and we don't do this and that or whatever, that would have made more sense for now. Because now the legitimate reason is he was gone for 3 months, and they don't turn that into a thing. Instead, it's like we got to figure out how to.
At least this Amber is a little bit more understanding. The one in the comments thought he was slinging packs.
Yeah.
Mark is selling drugs. What other explanation can there be? Leaving at 3 a.m. Leaving for weeks at a time. Nah, something's up.
Yeah, it's one of those things where that they're going to break up, and the show is hinting that they're going to break up, and now it's at a point where it feels better if they just rip the Band-Aid off instead of, making it all wishy-washy the way that they are right now.
Right.
But I don't know. Maybe it's got maybe like another episode or two before the wires don't cross. So
like I said, they are taking some liberties with the show. Like it's not 1-to-1 with the comics, and I think that's probably going to work to the show's benefit. Not because knowing the story could ruin it, because I mean we've seen plenty of times where knowing the story makes it kind of a moot point, because it's like, oh, look at the twist. How is it a twist if we all knew it was coming? But we have seen a trend of some shows or movies or adaptations of a thing that really play around too much with what we've come to understand or what it was established as the norm or the characterizations. I mean, look at the MCU. Some of the things, knock it out, grand slam, home run. Other things, you could have kept that one in the chamber, big dog. You could have just copied the comic. It'd been way, way better. Would have communicated this with the same amount of effort, and we'd have been good. But so far, so good with Invincible. I don't necessarily think there's anything that I hate. There's not been anything that shows up as like, I don't think we trust these folks yet. I think they've more than earned, the ability, they've showcased the ability to write these things, write them well.
Right.
I know some people were upset at, Amber's, I guess, differences from the source material.
I didn't care about that. But
at the same time, it was such a background character thing to where I don't know anyone who was reading Invincible because they wanted to get the next update on what's Amber doing. Like wasn't really part of the equation in the first place. So if you're going to play around with something, you should play around with that. Especially if it can help expedite Mark getting to a certain level of emotional maturity that he wouldn't have gotten to otherwise. Because remember, this is a TV series. You may not get the same amount of time that you had to build a comic book run. You might end up like Inside Job. Season 2, banger. Season 1, banger. All right, Amazon, it's time to re-up. And Amazon goes, yeah, we're not going to do that actually. See you guys next time. And then next you just got 2 seasons of a good show that has no conclusion in sight.
Oh man, Santa Clarita Diet.
Man, telling you, man, it's not good for anybody. But speaking of not good for anybody,
wait, hold on, real quick.
Oh.
About Invincible, what I want to say, because speaking of the character development stuff, even though these episodes are a lot of like build up towards like a big thing that's going to happen, what I think is going to be the season finale is probably going to be related to the sequence. But these past 2 episodes have been some of the like better episodes for the character development, and people complain that the first season wasn't gory enough, and that this season also was not gory enough.
Odd complaint.
I don't get it either, but like, these past 2 episodes have proven, the gore is still there for you, the people who want that.
Sycophants.
Like, there's some wild shit that happened in these past 2 episodes where it's like, only in the context of a superhero show could you be like, okay, I think that character lived through that.
I mean, trust me, and it's going to get a lot worse. Like if this stuff is making you squeamish, provided they adapt some of those scenes, which they should. Some of the stuff that you're going to see in these later seasons, if they come to fruition, gonna be fucking crazy. Although there's one plot point, I don't know if they're touching it. The assault. Attack on sexual. I just don't know. Or they're gonna touch the part about Amber running around with a black eye.
Oh,
I don't know if they're touching either of these. Which,
yeah, you're right. You're right. So that's one of those things. Also, shout outs to Stranger Things, by the way, because the last scene of this recent episode, it is something that looks straight out of the season finale of the first season of Stranger Things. When Will got home and he's like, "Yeah, I'm all right." Oh shit, which amounted to kind of nothing, but whatever. But anyways,
look, when she says my father died, I would have called you, but it was awkward. I was already seeing Gary. I confided in him. I thought we were close enough. He was so nice, but he's got problems of his own. I don't know what to say. He's like, well, you should have called me. I had no idea. I feel horrible. Don't. Gary was very supportive. He's such a great guy, and he's so understanding. It's just that, and I'm sorry, I just didn't know who else I could talk to about this. He gets angry sometimes. When you saw her face, and Mark was like, turning the snake meter. Where is he? And yeah, he found that redheaded ginger boy, and he was gonna give him the two tap.
I think they're gonna just keep that out altogether. What I'm waiting for, because it's going to be in the show at some point, maybe not this season, probably next season, is Eve's dad having interactions with Mark, because that guy is just a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Bro, man, when she gave him the gold apple and said, "I see you working at that burger shop. Here, sell this, make money, be okay. Anyways, I'm gone." And he's like, "How dare you?" And he threw it out. And I was like,
he's like, "I earn everything I get in this house. We don't want any handouts." And I said, he's one of them.
There's something about hatred that really brings you to do some of the dumbest shit ever. I don't care how much I hate somebody. You could be my greatest enemy. You hand me a gold apple that's worth thousands of dollars and say, "Sell this." Oh, I'm 100%.
You ain't gotta tell me twice.
Yeah, you ain't gotta tell me twice. You trying to give me money? All right, please. Thank you.
Shit, you could be Jurassic Op. I'm taking your advice on this one, bro.
We're gonna set the parlay for a couple of weeks on this one. Thank you.
Appreciate that, buddy. You've been promoted from asshole to buddy that fast. It was so quick. So quick. But speaking of asshole to buddy, X-Men 97. I don't know how many of you guys have been keeping up with it. It's only got 2 episodes out right now. But yeah. It was everything that we thought it would be here on this podcast.
Heat.
But I will... It was heat. It was heater for heater. But I think all those people were saying, go woke, go broke. All of you people, I want it in writing. Biggest the apology, make it as loud as the disrespect. Please. That's all you got to do. We don't need to have a big "I told you so" campaign. We don't need to hit the sign. Just please, if your disrespect before the release was astronomical, disproportionate to what we saw about going woke, going broke, I can't believe they're going to inject all this new wave nonsense, the feminism. Oh, they're going to blame Whitey. And it's like, I don't know if you guys have ever read the comics, but this is this isn't a new trend. I just shocker. And then the show came out, and it was more of what you remember, how you remember it, just with an uncanny valley animation style that takes it took me at least a whole episode before I got I got with it. Just looked a little off, but
That's how I felt. But like I will say this because I watched the first episode, got a little confused about the like Charles Xavier is dead plot or whatever, and I went back and watched I watched 3 episodes of the last season of the like original like 90s series, and it actually makes more sense when you look at that. So like this animation currently is just like an upscaled version of how the show ended, like the animation that was used when the show ended. But when you look at that animation, it looked like they were low on funds or something. So like that's why it's kind of weird. Like it's an upscale version of like what seemed to be like cheaper animation from the time, and yeah, it works. Like when you like take more time with it, like by the time you get like halfway through the second episode, it works. You see it and you can appreciate it. I'm like, yeah, maybe they could have done a little bit like better, or but the style is good, and I see the vision and I appreciate it and I like it.
But I also need people to stop doing this thing. Like, can you just be along for the ride? Just sit down and strap in. Because some of you'll be like, oh my God, are they doing House of M? Are they doing this storyline? Are they doing that storyline? Are they doing this storyline? Oh, it's going to be a combination of this storyline. And it's like, no, how about you sit down, you relax, you take a deep breath, and maybe, just maybe, you get a chance to enjoy something. Because I have noticed that there is definitely a lot of people out there who are watching this with content brain, aka they're not watching it to enjoy it. They're not watching it because they want to understand it. They're watching it because there has to be some deep nth level intellect degree breakdown that they have to give for, I guess, content recap purposes, or they have to reverse engineer some of the story beats into this, that, and the third. And I'm not saying that you can't enjoy the story that way if that's what you choose, but some of y'all take the fun out of it for yourselves. Y'all can't enjoy nothing because everything has to be I gotta get online and pretend I super love it, or get online and pretend that it's the worst thing since cat food was spiked into my macaroni and cheese. Like, come on, I need y'all to really just sit this one out. Just for once. Take deep breath and enjoy. If you don't like it, that's perfectly fine too. But make sure that's because that's a you decision, not because well, my audience kind of expects me to not like it, so now I gotta look at it with an overly critical eye that I wouldn't usually utilize, because I got to come up with something to get my audience to, click like, favorite, comment, and subscribe. Because there are some people who do that. They do that for games too.
Yeah, we just got done talking about like, Invincible, and it's funny because like, okay, so with Invincible there is one comic series for it that had its run from start to finish. It ended. There's like a definitive story there, and the creators involved in the show as well. So like a lot of it is like one-to-one with that comic series, and so there are certain things that you can expect from the TV show to like follow, and it's fine. Like you don't have to spoil it for people if you know, but like you understand like what's gonna happen most likely. Maybe some things are gonna be slightly different, but you understand that. X-Men is different. There have been several different like comic series for X-Men, several different universes, several different like pieces of X-Men media that can be adapted for the show, and this can also just be its own thing, and it's still okay because there's so much to build off of that they can just take ideas.
There's so many different timelines, continuities, re-releases.
Exactly. They can just make their own thing. Yeah. Plus, the original 90s show put in like a lot of the comic book stuff like randomly. Like one of the last episodes of the original show is Wolverine and Captain America stop the Nazis. Like that's just an episode that's just there, and there are all kinds of like different mutants throughout the series who are just like in it as like side characters or whatever, and all of that is fine. This show does not have to go based off any of those storylines. It can make its own thing, and it'll still be good and fun because there's like a lot of X-Men content that you could like incorporate here, or you can build off of, and then just make your own thing, and it'd still be fun. I mean, shit,
And
we saw these 2 episodes, and they're good.
I mean, episode 2, it played with a lot of people's subversions of what they thought Magneto was going to be, because they definitely underestimated the bond that he has with Charles Xavier, because there were about not one, not two, about 3 or 4 moments where you're like, okay, Magneto's going to flip now. Here comes the flip. And then it didn't come. Oh, no. Come on, bro. You saw what they did to Storm? Oh, he's about to seismic toss him. Go into the space and just airdrop him down. That's what's about to happen. And he didn't do it. So not only is it making you wonder when is it going to happen, if it's going to happen, but the cliffhanger that episode 2 left you on, people got some explaining to do.
Listen, everything that was in episode 2 is stuff that comes from like the more current comics, like Magneto being with the X-Men, chilling with them and whatnot. That's more of like more the recent 10-15 years plus of like comics and like what they built up with what is it? Not Krakoa, but there was like an X-Men like paradise or whatever that they built in the comics, where like they're just like, fuck it, the mutants are gonna live here. You guys are gonna leave us the fuck alone, and we're all gonna have fun over here on our place. And then the rest, like whoever doesn't want to live here, they can do all that. But like y'all can be racist over there, and we're gonna enjoy our lives over here. That kind of shit. And so they have all of that to build this like new Magneto and say like, hey, he's learning. I mean, his best friend is dead, or like his best friend is dead, and he can't see the man anymore, so he can use the man's legacy to build something better and understand things from his perspective more. And he's trying to do that. And he literally was like, listen, I know you guys think I'm a terrorist and I need to be like, held accountable for my war crimes, and I literally have one of the strongest powers out here. I can kill all of you whenever the fuck I please. And I'm just not going to do that. I'm going to use that to prove to you that I am not a threat anymore, but I can be a threat, that kind of shit. And immediately somebody shows up and proves why that man was out here, like, giving people the Dougie in the streets in the first place. Like somebody showed up and was like, I'm going to assassinate that man with the fucking energy bullet. And it's like, huh? And now one of the major characters in the series was like, I have no reason to be here anymore, so I'm just gonna toodaloo, everybody.
Zoodoo-doo-dah, bye-bye, I'm normal.
And it was like, what? And so the way they did that opened up so many opportunities for an interesting story. It's like, what's going to happen to that character? Why is this character showing up at the door? What's going to happen with the baby? Hey, look, it's Cable. Hey, how do you guys? Okay, so Nathan Summers, she had the baby. Nathan Summers is there. Do you guys not remember meeting Cable, or did Cable just not really interact with most of you? The Wolverine, he captured you. Nothing. No? Bishop? Anything?
Well, here's the thing. At the end of episode 2, and everyone was like, which one's the real one? I was like, come on, chat. One of them fainted in an X-Men cartoon. I think we know who's who. That's our Gene. You mean to tell me this person went through an entire pregnancy and delivered the baby through a C-section and didn't pass out? Not my Gene. I don't know that lady.
It's one of those things.
That's a stranger.
Just somehow off screen, she got impregnated and was like ready to have the baby, and they're just like, yeah, this is just what's gonna happen. And yeah, it was like, huh? Wait, nobody's gonna. Okay, well, I guess we're good. Cyclops is leaving. Jean is, talking about leaving. And I was like, Magneto said one of the best things. He was like, they're talking about leaving to protect their child or whatever, because, not being in the life is going to somehow like, protect their child from the shit that's out there. And Magneto just, put his hand on Cyclops' shoulder and was, like, always be vigilant. You never know what's going to happen out there. There are all kinds of bad things that happened this week, but we still also got good. You had a child, that's great. But always be on guard, because tragedy will strike at any point in time, and this week proved it. And yeah, I mean, what? Mr. Sinister kidnapped Scott and Jean because he wanted them to breed, because he was like, you two would make the strongest like kids and whatnot, and I want to like do genetic experiments on them and all this shit. And then it was like, so that didn't strike any fear in you that maybe someone would be after you after all of this? None of that. But then again, X-Men is a series where Scott and Jean's kids are like always the most mythical creatures known to man. They have Cable. Cable's like an integral part of the like timeline, time jumping like storylines and shit. They have a daughter, Rachel, who just comes from a different timeline and just like lives with them. Like the same way Bishop is doing now. She just like shows up to their fucking time. Maybe she had a little bit of a story arc. I don't remember what it was. But after that, she just stayed. Like she never went back to her time.
She just said,
she just stayed
I like
and chilled.
it here. I like having parents who are active and a part of my life. I'm not going
Cable's
back.
kid became like the next messiah of like Super Jesus Phoenix Force. You know,
Super
like,
Jesus Phoenix Force.
That family bloodline is strong. You know, there are all kinds of things that'll happen with them. So like X-Men 97 though, man, I love that this show showcased how cool the characters are with their powers. In like a throwaway frame, Scott is beating up some fucking baddies and he just blasts the floor and fucking, shoots back, and it's like, that was cool. And in the 90s show, that would be like a big deal. And this is just like a frame of like, oh, he just does that all the time.
Because one thing that I think is really interesting is when you have fight choreography and you have people who can do things that regular humans can't do, this is the perfect time to get creative. I think one of the best shows of all time in terms of being creative with the movements and, playing around with, anatomy and how, it can enhance martial arts to have superpowers. Avatar.
Yes.
Have you seen Korra? Like, I'm not asking you to like the plot of Korra. I don't care about that. But fight choreography, A1. S tier levels of creativeness have been there. Because some of these movies, especially some recent productions, they have superpowers, but it's still like jank, untrained martial arts punches that they're throwing and an occasional energy beam.
Yep.
And it's like, you got to give us more than that. There's no reason why I should believe that John Wick is closer to the Flash than whatever the fuck Ezra Miller was doing in that last movie there. I'm just...
Exactly. Like the evolution of these powers is really cool. Avatar is the best example of that because of like, the first series you had like, oh, well, we have firebenders, waterbenders, earthbenders, and airbenders. And then somebody was like, what if I just take the air out of you? And it was like, wait, huh? What if I just, blood can be kind of like water. If I just start bending your blood, and then people, more people are like, oh shit, wait, I didn't know we could do. Hold on.
And someone's like, something about minerals being in metal. Let's see what we could do with that.
Yeah, let's see what we could do with that. Avatar Roku was like, what if I, take the magma from the earth and use that? Because I mean, it's hot. It's got some fire in it. So like, what if I just start bending that? It's like, let's see what happens there. And it's like, oh shit, they're onto something. We're on a new level now. And then of course, Aang is just like, oh, I'm getting beat. I'm stealing your bending right now.
Because it is kind of funny how some people will be like, wait a minute, does that mean that fire bending is more heat bending because it's bending magma, which technically is a fire, lightning, which definitely is a fire. And it's like, sometimes you got to open your mind. Then you got spontaneous combustion, man, like in the combustion family.
That was just like shooting explosions at people and shit. It's like, okay, I want what that guy's having over there. Like that's the stuff. Tell me how to do that.
I was like, nah, I don't know if I want that. I don't want to be mid sneeze. Now all of a sudden I accidentally misfire. I don't want to be in the bedroom giving master strokes and all of a sudden, oh, pooh! Like it looks too volatile, man. Looks like you need intense focus at all times. Maximum concentration.
There's a movie called Accepted, right? You know, it's about the plot of the movie is that, you know, dude doesn't get into college, so he makes up a fake college and then says, "This is where I'm going," and rents out a building. And then some people were like, "I also need a fake college to go to," and they start going there or whatever. And then they just start turning it into a real college where they just learn whatever the fuck they want. And they ask this one dude, they're like, "What do you want to learn?" He's like, "I want to learn how to blow shit up with my mind." They're like, "Whoa, somebody watch that guy." And there's a joke at the end of the movie with an after credit scene where like the principal of the school that was like giving them grief, like was walking to his car, and then it just like explodes, and then he's like, "I told you guys, see, I could do it." That's the type of shit that you want your superpowers to like get to at some point. And X-Men, oh man, a throwaway line of like the fucking okay, Friends of Humanity. I get so distracted by the t-shirts because the fucking acronym is FOH, so I'm like, fuck out of here. Yo, it's got a fire. But like they're attacking Magneto and they have energy weapons. And this man is just like, unfortunately for you, my power over magnetism also gives me power over electricity, you know? And then he just fucks their shit up immediately. Like the whole time he's like, I can basically do whatever I want because magnetism is not like a set thing. It is a
Half
force.
of you, the vast majority of y'all on this planet don't even know how magnets work, to the point where it was a meme. Magnets, how
Right.
the fuck do they work? Exactly. He's freestyling out there, man.
He's doing whatever he wants to a point where he was just like, I'm pissed. All right, I'm just gonna lift all you guys up. We're going into space. And it's like, he could just do that. Like he could just do that.
And he's just like, you see what I could do? I'm not gonna do it. But I need y'all to really understand. You're in the fuck around portion of the diagram. If we get to the finding out part, just know there's not a damn thing anybody in this room, that courthouse, your military force could really do to stop me. You better hope that Sentinel Man get infinite budget. You better hope that. You better hope that I develop small palsy or something. You gotta have some hopes, or you're gonna have to find some mutants who want to play ball with you guys. Which
Also,
means
the government is inefficient in that show. How the hell you got a man who's on the run, who can build these like giant killing machines where all he has to do is flip a switch and it can be like, now to kill the humans that I don't like, and that's it. It's over for all of you, and nobody's keeping tabs on this man in any sort of capacity. None. He had like some factory out in the fucking boonies that all they took was like probing one guy to be like, oh, it's just out here? Oh, wow. And you see a giant sentinel making other sentinels and nobody noticed this? Nobody's like, this didn't show up on any satellite, any of that shit to be like, oh, there he is.
Where is the investigative journalism?
That's what I'm saying.
Because he had like 5 of them and they all just kept coming out the ground. I'm like, man, I'm getting those Rise of Skywalker Palpatine secret Star Destroyer vibes right now.
Yeah.
They were here under the floorboards the entire time.
On top of that, he's racist. So it was like, you don't want him to have that kind of power. And yet first off, he isn't in jail. He escaped. Like, how did that happen? Like, you have mutants on your side and you couldn't say, hey, we just need one of y'all to like keep watch over his cell, you know, and then that'll be fine, because he doesn't have the ability to do anything
because he's not a superhuman. He can't just escape.
Exactly. So like, why the fuck wouldn't you keep tabs on him in some kind of capacity? I'm expecting the government to have some like, you know, some heat, because you got the fucking group of like racist people who hate mutants have all kinds of high tech weapons and whatnot. I don't know how the hell they got a hold of those. I hope they explain it, but like they're over here like, you know, putting these fucking debilitating collars on mutants. They're like, you know, hitting people and taking away their powers and shit. And you mean to tell me the government, who should be monitoring all this activity, don't know how to have those same weapons. You have the collars, but you don't have the weapons. And you don't know where the man who made the killing machines escaped to in any sort of capacity.
It's like,
It
y'all
is
are
not
pretty
like,
dog shit at your job, but let me
yeah,
be $15 out of pocket and $15 off on my taxes. All of a sudden, the IRS sending dudes in suits. Hey, don't make us get the Pinkerton Foundation. Hey.
but the fucking but Magneto, the man who commits, well, quote unquote, terrorism in order to save his people from the racism is the main priority. They're like, he's at the X Mansion with the X-Men, the people that we trust.
Hey, that man had a bar about that. He said, look, my people were oppressed. My people had everything taken away from them just for being different. And then as I became a mutant, I began to realize some of those same people who were my brothers in arms, when we fought back against our oppressors, were now trying to oppress me. The oppressed became the oppressors. It's cyclical. And it's like, yeah, he's not wrong.
It was amazing. It was amazing. Like, the writing for that show is perfect. I'm so, like, I like that show so much that Magneto could just wave his hand like this and laser beams will come out and I'll be like, I believe it. They'll explain it to me. Don't worry.
Hey, I ain't gonna go that far, but yeah, I'm close. I definitely ain't going that far. my man ain't just about to just touch somebody on their forehead and they turn into a pigeon, and I'm like, acceptable. Like, we're not doing that. We're not turning this into some weird alchemy. All right, we're not. What, you gonna tell me that's not in my power repertoire? You don't know how magnets work, and he just flies away. After he done turned two people into pigeons, just going, woo, woo. Like, that's not best for business. But another thing I want to talk about, not necessarily X-Men 97 related, but when did, like, the average consumer just not be able to formulate their own opinion about anything? Because I'm seeing a lot of people with this Rise of the Ronin game. I didn't personally care for it myself, but I saw a lot of people who were like, oh my God, I can't wait. It's going to be my game of the year. Oh, it's going to be great. Team Ninja's back in the saddle. I can't wait to get, this is going to be my new crack. And they were pre-ordering it. And I see some of those same people now saying, whoa, only a 7 out of 10 by IGN? Nah, man, I'm going to cancel my pre-order. This game isn't good. And it's like, IGN? Half the time IGN drops a review, y'all are laughing.
Yeah.
What? Why all of a sudden is IGN and any of their reviewers being taken to this level of, dare I say, their word being the law of the land? When any other time they publish something, you know it's probably just BS because we know who pays who. Not to mention, there are plenty of 7 out of 10 games that end up being games that y'all play forever. You're not going to tell me that Fall Guys is anything above a 7. You're not going to tell me that Helldivers 2 in and of itself was anything above a 7. Hell, I if we're being honest, I don't even think the event crazed Among Us was anything ever above a 6. But when you have a community that anchors down, has a good time, can spice things up, it's not necessarily about whether the game itself is perfect. Sometimes just having a community that believes in itself and can sustain itself, sometimes that's enough. Sometimes a game just being fun, not necessarily with the most gripping and compelling story, not necessarily with the most cutting edge technology and graphics, not necessarily with the greatest frame rates of all time, but just a stable, fun experience that you can delve into. Sometimes that's enough to be great. Even if what you've brought to the table is a 7 out of 10, it can still be fun. It can still be great. Also, remember, this is a Team Ninja game in which a combat system has damn near infinite depth. And you think an IGN game reviewer had enough time to put the amount of hours it is to find anything remotely near the skill ceiling. Like, there's a lot of things that are going to be left on the table for any reviewer. Because, let's be honest, the meta for that game probably isn't going to develop for a couple of months. But to see people canceling their pre-order because a paltry 7 out of 10 review is just insane to me. And this isn't something that's IGN specific. There will be times where people will be super excited for a game and like they can't wait, but like they need to tap in with Angry Joe. They need to tap in with insert reviewer here. They got to wait for the Digital Foundry review to drop. And I'm not saying that you can't take a reviewer's, opinions and just be like, hey, okay, I'll take that into consideration. But there are some people who will just be like, oh, well, my favorite reviewer didn't get on all fours and just let the game plow him in the ass while he was sucking the developer's penis the entire time, just getting spit roasted. Therefore, I can't buy the game because he wasn't saying it was perfect. Like, that's insane. Oh, well, she said that she wasn't really, expunging milk from her mommy milkers every ounce of the game. So therefore, I can't buy the game. Like, y'all sound very weird when y'all do things like that. It's very strange that y'all don't want to formulate your own opinion. Like, if a game looks interesting to you, buy it. Now, if you find out that later on that it's not that great, because I mean, trust me, there have been plenty of times where there have been reviewers who said, this game is great, 8 out of 10, easy. And then you buy it and you're like, this is actually a 2-pack of ass. Like, trust me, I don't care what type of silver tongued devil you have. There is no YouTuber who's going to talk me out of me reaching into my wallet and spending $70 on a game that I was like, I don't really care for it. And then they tell me it's crack. And I'm like, oh, guess who's reaching into their old wallet? That's not.
Here's a good example. So like, the narrative that's being pushed now by like a lot of YouTubers, content creators in general, is that Midnight Suns, Marvel Midnight Suns is like a very underrated video game.
Right.
And that like people are missing out. They should buy it. They should play it, whatever. It's one of like the best Marvel games to ever exist, that type of shit, right?
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, the like asterisks on that like thing is that you have to let people know that it's XCOM. It's an XCOM style game, and that if you don't like that series, the way that game plays, you don't like RTS type games, you don't like a real-time strategy video game, then it's not going to really appeal to you. And so I've seen like people on my timeline who are like, I heard this game is like really, really great, blah, 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 whatever. I bought it and I don't like it. I don't like this gameplay at all. And it's like, it may have like really cool, like references and things to like the characters.
Like the story, cutscenes, dialogue, and like the character interactions are great. Like S tier in Midnight Suns. But it is gatekept by the fact that if RTSs are an acquired taste,
right,
it would be like, oh man, we're making this really cool Superman game, and everyone goes, oh my god, I love Superman, but the gameplay is Tekken. Like, you got to understand that like a lot of you won't even understand how to move properly. All right, like the average gamer just becoming into a 3D, it's Soul Calibur. Like, it's not
Superman wave dashing at you, just like you see the cape flowing and everything. That's hilarious.
Like sure, the Tekken heads and people who like fighting games and 3D fighters and arena fighters will be like, oh my god, I love this. But like the average gamer not getting the inputs because they're using the joystick like they use for every game that they play are gonna be like, the controls are shit. I have no control over my movement. My character's just doing shit. This is ass. Much less if it's a game that's got like the release check setting on by default, where moves come out on button release as opposed to bro, it's gonna be bad news bears. You're not gonna like your experience.
Listen, man, see, me personally, I'm not like the biggest RTS fan. Like I can get into the games like that, I like my occasional Fire Emblem here and there, I can get into those games, but it's not like the number one type of game that I'm like hyped for. And that's what kept me from buying Midnight Suns in the first place. And I assumed that the low sales for that game, or like the I guess the non-success that people are talking about for that game is coming from the fact that like a lot of people were like, I don't really like that style of gameplay, so it's gonna be a skip for me. And all the people who are like hyping it up now love those types of games, and they're like, I don't get why people don't want this. Like everybody should want this game right here, and they're just like forgetting about the fact that like it's not the most popular like type of game. So like the average gamer is not going to be like, oh, I really like XCOM. Like that's an acquired taste for like a somewhat niche group of people. So like it's okay if it's not the most popular game, regardless of it having the IP and like the good character models, representation, all that shit. Also, if I under my understanding is that like there's also like a card based aspect to it as well. So it's like it's like that feeling of playing Kingdom Hearts 1 and then playing what is it? Not Birth by Sleep, Chain of Memories for the first time, and being like, yeah, and I'm gonna play the Sora and do my action command screen. What are these cards? What the hell's going on? What? Hey, what is this? Like that's a big change. Going from like Kingdom Hearts 1 and then playing the fucking mobile game that was on like the N Gauge or some shit like that. That's a big change, and you have to like prep people for that, especially if they came for the first thing. So
like imagine if like Final Fantasy Remake came out and it locked you into like Final Fantasy 4 turn-based mode, and that was the game. That was the game's combat.
Yeah,
like it's not what you signed up for. It's like, don't get me wrong, you care about the story, you care about that lore, you want to know what happens next, but at some point you're gonna be like, you know what, I'm gonna refund the game because I don't like playing it. I'm gonna go to YouTube. I'm gonna watch somebody else have a good time with no commentary.
Yeah, honestly, like that's better for me. Sometimes some games don't have to be played by you. You don't need to enjoy every single game that everybody is playing. It's completely fine. One example. Okay, let's look at Street Fighter 6 and let's look at Tekken. Street Fighter 6 came out, it was super popular. Everybody bought it. There's like a huge group of people who only played the what is it, the World Tour mode, and like only play with their creative character or whatever. There's another huge group of people who are like, yeah, Jury's feet, Cammy's booty, whatever, Ryu's pecs, all that shit, right? And then they played the game. Maybe they got to like gold, maybe they got to like silver, gold rank, whatever, and then they were like, this game is really hard. I'm not really feeling it anymore, and they stopped playing. A lot of like people who weren't necessarily Street Fighter players picked it up and started playing it, and they played it for a while, they dropped it. Tekken is going through a similar thing where like a lot of people, content creators, whatever, like who don't normally play Tekken games are playing Tekken 8, and they're trying to rank up, trying to enjoy it or whatever. But Tekken 8 has a similar thing to Street Fighter where after you beat the story, it's like, what are you gonna do? You're gonna boot up, you're gonna go to training mode, and you're gonna play ranked or maybe play online with friends. That's really it. That's usually the fighting game experience.
I was gonna say, I think this fighting game as a whole.
Yeah, like some so some fighting games like Grand Blue and stuff will have like other modes that tailor more to like the single audience. Player, yeah, the casual audience, like play against CPU, that type of shit. But your average Street Fighter or Tekken game is not going to have those. And if you're not like a fighting game fan, or you're not like a competitive like player, then those games, like the appeal of those games is gonna wash out for you, and that's fine. Like you don't have to enjoy it. You don't have to be someone who necessarily like makes top 8 at Evo, Arc Revo, whatever the fuck. You can be someone who shows up to spectate, or someone who just like watches the stream and enjoys it that way. It's completely fine. You can be one of, I don't know, Sonic Fox's like Mortal Kombat 1 YouTube video viewers or whatever, where he's like, oh my God, look at this crazy Peacemaker combo, that kind of shit. Like, you could be that person. It's totally fine. You don't have to be the best player or whatever. You can enjoy the game however the hell you want to enjoy it. Just because everyone is gonna say God, what was the most recent like popular game that everyone play? Final Fantasy. Okay, you don't have to like go out buy a PS5 and then play Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth or whatever just because you see everybody else like streaming it, playing it, whatever. You can watch them and then enjoy it that way, or you can wait for it to come out on PC or whatever. You don't have to buy it immediately and play it just because everyone else is doing it.
Right.
You don't even have to like it.
Y'all gotta stop losing the FOMO matchup.
Yeah, that's driving so many opinions these days. Like, just because you see some weirdo, like just because you see some Kotaku article that's like, I think Final Fantasy 7 was the worst video game, that kind of shit, doesn't mean that the game is trash. Just because you see an IGN article that says Rise of Ronin was it was a 7 out of 10, that doesn't mean it's a bad game. In fact, it means that it's the bare minimum of a good game, and it's fine. Like, listen. Somehow, Spider-Man 2 avoided the Insomniac burnout that's gonna happen, where they make the same game. Gameplay wise, they make the same game, and it's fine because that game is good. First Spider-Man was good. Miles Morales was good. Spider-Man 2, good. Those were all good games. They're not the best games ever, but people will hype them up like, this was the greatest experience I've had ever. Oh my God, the narrative, the story, that kind of shit. But like Wolverine, the eventual like X-Men game, I think there's like at least one other game that they have on their like list that's supposed to be coming out in that like area or whatever. But those games are all also going to play pretty similar to the Spider-Man games. And eventually, people are going to be like, again?
Eventually, it's going to become a formula.
Yeah. And it's going to be like Souls games where people are just going to be like, well, you need to like really, really impress me. There are a bunch of Souls games that came out between Dark Souls 3 and Elden Ring. But Elden Ring was Game of the Year it came out because it took the genre and added everything that you needed to add to make it a great game. It added some, a great story, unique experience, lots and lots of variety for like builds and, an open world, like all kinds of like new elements that weren't necessarily in the older games, taking good parts of games that came previous to that one and building something better. That's how games should be. And that's how like the best game should always be. But some people like kind of forget that. Like, you're allowed to have okay games as well as like, the greatest games. Not every game that's not Game of the Year is worst game ever. It's not all Superman 64. Like, so.
Look, you can't bring up Superman 64 like that.
I have to. We have to remind people sometimes because we're now in a generation where they literally didn't play that game. They got to avoid it.
So what's funny, right? Is you say that, right? What's funny is there are some people, and it's the same thing with movies too. There are some people, it's like, if it's not Pulp Fiction, it's Pixels. Like, it's like it's either the greatest thing I've ever seen or it's Jurassic World 2. And it's like, come on, bro. You gotta have a wider scale than that, because otherwise you're just gonna be disappointed forever. I can guarantee you the last movie that you thought was good since Dune 2 was Dune 1. Especially if you're someone who watches only blockbusters, you've been disappointed for quite some time.
Listen, the spice has shown me the way. Lisan al-Gaib!
With that being said, I think that's going to bring this episode to about a close at a nice crisp hour. So yeah, we will see you guys next week, and hopefully the world isn't on fire this time. I know, weeks without fire, still zero, but we're working on
Still
it.
0.